Welcome everyone. My name is Gayle, and this video we're going to focus on super glutes. So our glutes are the biggest muscle group in our body, and they're responsible for almost everything we do, whether it's sitting or walking or running or climbing stairs or any kind of sport that we do. They're super important, and unfortunately, because we sit a lot, they can get tight and soft and weak and cause all kinds of problems. So sometimes back pain or knee pain could be caused from weak glutes because they're not doing their job and other muscles are compensating, becoming imbalanced, and eventually cause problems. So we're gonna activate our glutes, work on different ranges of motion with them, build some strength, and see how it feels after this practice. And it's something you can incorporate anytime you want, parts and bits and pieces of the class, or repeat the class. So let's start on our backs. And we're going to start just by relaxing and getting in touch with our breath. And every inhale, see if you can feel 360 degrees of movement. So your back presses into the floor, your ribs, front ribs lift, your ribs flare out side to side. And there's even a little bit down and up movement. And as you exhale, let everything release. We're going to focus just on the breath for 5 more breaths. Tuning into the breath, letting go of any thoughts that you started with, so that our practice can be really focused and open to discovery and learning something new. Because even if you're doing the same thing over and over again, if you have an open mind, typically you can find something new, even if it's just a little teeny bit. But sometimes all those little bits add up to bigger pieces. So now pick your knees up and just hover your knees above your hips. We're just going to circle the knees to give our glutes a little massage to start with. And reverse the direction of your circles, staying nice and relaxed. And lower your feet to the floor. We're going to play with bridge pose. So place your feet about hip distance apart. Lift and spread all 10 toes. Lower the toes down, keeping the space as best you can. And see if you can feel the tripod of your foot. The amount of the big toe, amount of the pinky toe in the center of your heel. Press evenly into that tripod and feel your hips lift up. And they'll kind of come to a place where they just want to stop. So stop here for a breath. And then push down a little harder. Notice how it really turns your glutes on, and you lift a little bit higher. And then let everything relax, the shoulders relax, and just lower down one vertebrae at a time until your sacrum and your glutes rest on the ground. And we're going to do that 4 more times. So press into your feet, lift the hips up, pause, press down a little more, squeeze the glutes, lift a little higher, and relax the shoulders, your upper back, let everything lower down. 3 more times, pressing down, feeling the lift, pausing, press a little bit more. So you get a little bit higher, it's a little more effort, and slowly release, lower down. Not plopping down, but almost like you're unfurling something, lowering down. 2 more times. Press into your big toe mounds, lift up, pause, press a little bit more, lift a little higher, and pause. Slowly lower down. Last one. Press into your feet. Feel your hips rise. Find that place where they just want to stop. Rest for a moment, and then push a little harder, lift up a little bit more, fire up the glutes, and slowly relax and lower down. Let yourself relax completely for a couple of breaths. Now push into your feet and just lift the glutes a little bit off the floor. So maybe like a fist height off the floor. And squeeze your right glute, pulling the right glute up. Relax it down and squeeze the left glute, pulling the left glute up. Relax. So on your exhale, push into your foot, squeeze the right glute, pull it up. Inhale, relax. Exhale, push into the left foot, squeeze the glute, lift up. We're just gonna swing from side to side a couple more times. So that's 3 times each side. Let's do 2 more. Each side, press into the foot, squeeze the glute, lift. So we're kind of like isolating a little bit the right glute and then the left glute. Go ahead, lower back down again. Hold the back of your thighs and we'll use a little momentum to just rock forward and back. So we're rolling over the glutes, giving them another massage. And this time we're gonna roll all the way up and come on into tabletop on your hands and knees. Turn your fingers towards your knees as best you can and start to just rock and circle around your wrists, around your hands. Just to kind of stretch out the hands a little bit. Stretch out the wrists. Then sit back on your heels, make fists with your hands, glue your knuckles together. With your elbows bent, place the top of your hands on the ground and then straighten your arms, feeling a nice stretch on the back of your wrists. So every time you bend the elbows, you relax the stretch. Every time you straighten the arms, you get into that stretch. Good, so that was just a little warm up for the hands. Actually, let's sit back on our heels and interlace your fingers and just roll the wrists a little bit. Giving the hands, the wrists a little attention before we use them and put weight into them. Okay. So let's come back into our tabletop. Be aware of activating your core, your abs, your back, at least a little bit so that you're not just sagging down. You're not sagging down with your belly and you're not just sinking all the weight into the heels of your hands, which will eventually, potentially, not for sure, but good chance it could end up causing your wrists to be uncomfortable. So lift up through the ribs and the belly a little bit, still keeping some softness there. Grip the mat with the pads of your fingers to feel your arms start to engage. Let's stretch your left leg back. Lift your leg to about hip height. We're just gonna externally rotate and internally rotate. So keeping the hips relatively still. I'm not lifting and lowering the hips. Keeping the hips still and finding that little bit of external and internal rotation. Notice how the glutes are working to make this happen. Just one more time. External, internal. Now big external rotation so that you're stacking your hips. And then internal rotation, big internal rotation. Bend your knee, tap your knee to the outside of your right knee. Stretch your leg out again. Big external rotation. And internal rotation, reach across and tap. One more big external rotation. Squeeze those glutes and internally rotate, reach across. This time when you externally rotate, keep your leg the same height if you can. Bring your leg all the way around and twist to your right. Bring your right hand down, straighten your leg, reach your hips back, glide forward as best you can, so we're getting into the hamstrings here. Keep your knee bent if you need to, and come back into your lunge, step back into tabletop. I'll do the same thing on the other side. So stretch your right leg out, lift it up about hip height, little internal, external rotations back and forth. Try not to sag, trying to keep that inward, upward lift. Trying to keep the hips as still as possible. So we're not going for big movement, we're going for like intentional movement. And now we'll do the big movement. So stack your right hip on top of the left hip. And bend your knee, reach your knee across and tap. So 2 more. Externally rotate, internally rotate, reach across, externally rotate, internally rotate, reach across, externally rotate, keep your foot high as you can and step your foot forward, twist to your right, bring your right hand down, shift your hips back, chest forward, come on back into your tabletop. So keeping your knee bent, open your knee out to the side, about hip height, trying to keep your foot and your knee about the same height. Shift your weight a little bit to the left. So notice if you shift to the right, it takes some of the work out of your left glute. So we're gonna shift to the left as much as you can. I doubt you'll go like way far over. So just feel that action and then start to rotate in the hip joint. So external rotation and internal rotation. Just gliding back and forth. And now lower your knee close to the other knee to hover and lift your legs straight out to the side. And lower down, lift out to the side, lower. Like to me, it feels like both glutes are working, right and left side. So notice what it feels like to you. The last one, bring your leg out, this time straighten your leg, step your foot forward again, twist, lower your hand down, shift your hips back, and come back into tabletop. So other side, open your right knee out to the side, and little internal and external rotation of the hip, keeping a lift, not sagging, but lifting. And then lower your knee down and lift it out to the side. And lower it down, lift it out to the side, lower down, out to the side, lower down, out to the side, straighten your leg, step it forward, twist to your right, and bring your hand back down. Come back into your tabletop and just move your hips around, maybe circle, just whatever way feels good for you, just getting some nice movement into the spine. Now straighten your left leg out again, lift it about hip height. Big extra rotation and stacking of the hips. Bring your leg out to the side. And those little internal and external rotations here. So you can bend your knee if you need to, if this is too much. Otherwise, just go for it, doing the best you can. Good, then swing your leg behind you. Hug your knee into your chest. Lower your knee down. We'll do the same thing other side. So straighten your leg back, lift up, big external rotation, bring your leg out to the side. Try and hold it about hip height, and just little internal, external rotations here. You can even look at your foot to see the movement, what's going on. Ooh, it's getting hard. Good, bring your knee back behind you, hug your knee into your chest. Step back into tabletop, and let's open our knees apart and rest in child's pose. And just let everything relax. Take a little break here. And we're gonna come into down dog. So bring your knees about hip distance apart, tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back. And take a few moments to explore your down dog. Whatever aspect of this you want to explore. So I like to, right now I'm working on dorsiflexion of my ankles. by pressing out through the heel, down through the heel, and then a little bit forward through the knee. And come into your full down dog. Lift and spread all your toes. Lower them back down, keeping the spread. Lift up through your inner arch and send your hips way back. And come up onto your toes, reach your left leg up. Big external rotation of your hips and swing your leg out to the side. Step it forward as far as you can. And same thing, other leg, lift it up. Big external rotation. Swing it out to the side. Coming into a forward fold. So as often as you can remember to lift and spread your toes, it's really good for your feet, it's good for your balance, it's good awareness. So keep the arches lifting. You can come up onto your fingertips. See if you can evenly weight the tripod of the feet, and we're gonna slice our leg out to the side for a big external rotation. Lift, lower to hover, and exhale, lift open, inhale, hover, exhale, lift, inhale, hover, 2 more, exhale, lift, inhale, hover, exhale, lift, hold here. Try and square your hips and lower down. We'll do the same thing other side. So hover your right foot off the floor and then slice it out to the side. Hover it down, slice it out again, lower down, lift and lower. And you can try changing the pace. Lifting a little slower is typically a little harder. Oh, good. Lower down. Lift and spread your toes again. Spread the toes out. And sink your hips coming into a little squat and press the hips up again. We'll do this 2 more times. Lower the hips. Lift the hips. And lower the hips. Lift the hips about halfway. Come up into chair pose, Utkatasana. Draw your belly back. Reach your arms up. And press into your feet, rise all the way up. Oh, release your arms down by your sides. And just pause for a moment. Noticing your connection into the earth. Notice if you feel supported just standing here in Tadasana. So I'm gonna face you. And now we're gonna work on a little balance while we're working the movement of the hips. So feel free to stand next to a wall, have your hand on the wall, or having a chair support you, something that can help you with your balance if you need it, because a lot of times I use something like that to try and figure out what I need to do with my body to find that balance. So feel free to hold on to something. Shift your weight into your left foot, pull your right knee up. Bring your hands to your hips. And the idea here is to notice you want to keep your hips relatively still, but start to externally rotate and internally rotate, drawing a big circle without like pulling your hip around, kind of like that, but trying to keep the hips relatively still as you circle around. So you could be holding onto something with one hand. Good, just a couple more. Maybe one more rotation like this. And then pull your knee up into your chest. Try not to lean back, slouch back, or sink into this leg, but instead think of pulling energy up, pulling your knee up, pushing your foot down, driving your foot down, reach your arms up. Straighten your leg, and slowly lower down. Release. And then just like, let's just kind of move our hips around freely, a little free form hip movement. And let's switch to the other side. So again, it helps to lift and spread your toes, lower them back down, lift up through the arch so your foot is engaged and aware and working. On your, let's see, Bring your knee up, pull your knee up with your hands on your hips to give you a little feedback about how much the hips are moving, and circle this leg. The leg that's in the air, obviously. So nice, slow, controlled circles, finding that external rotation, neutral, internal rotation, and maybe one more circle. And pull your knee up nice and high, reaching up, reach your arms up, straighten your leg, slowly lower down, releasing your arms down. And take a moment and pause. And notice if you feel like super connected into the earth, and if you're starting to appreciate the superpowers of your hips, how they can hold you steady, they help you balance, they give you support. They're just really amazing, and we don't want to ignore them. We don't want to like forget about them and let them get lazy and kind of like just go on some kind of vacation. So now I'm going to face the front of the mat, and we're going to start moving a little bit. So after we pull our knee up, we're going to step back into crescent lunge. So reach your arms behind you. As you inhale, reach your arms up, pull your knee up nice and strong. And as you exhale, bend your elbows, cross your left ankle above your right knee, sink down. Inhale, come up, pull your knee up nice and tall. And as you exhale, step it back, crescent lunge with control. Maybe you find a little opening in your upper back in your crescent lunge. And as you come back, step your weight forward, reach your arms back, lift your back leg up, coming into warrior three. Keep the shoulders nice and lifted, the belly lifted, leg lifting. And pull your knee into your chest again. Reach your arms up, lift up, straighten your leg, slowly lower down. Relax your arms. And take a little break here. Maybe just shake things out a little bit. And let's do the other side. So lift and spread all your toes. Shift your weight into your left leg. As you inhale, reach your arms up, reach your knee up, squeeze your knee up nice and tall. And bend your knee, bend your elbows, cross your right ankle above your left knee, sink down. Inhale, come up. Pull your knee up again and step your foot back, coming into crescent lunge. Reach up through your heart and shift your weight forward. Reach your arms back as you reach your back leg up, keeping the shoulders lifted, belly lifted, top leg strong. And pull your knee up into your chest. Again, lift up nice and tall, straighten your leg, and slowly lower down. Release the arms down. Again, take a little break. Maybe circle the hips, whatever feels good. And we'll repeat that, but with a little bit of a modification. So instead of stepping back into crescent lunge, we're gonna externally rotate and step back into warrior two. Okay? So let's start. Inhale, reach your right leg up, arms up nice and tall. Exhale, cross your right ankle above your left knee, sink your hips down. Inhale, press up again, pull your knee up, externally rotate your knee, step your foot back, warrior two. Reach back, reverse your warrior, and come back through warrior two. Now it can really help to bring your foot in a little bit. And we're gonna sweep our back, arm forward, lift your knee up, pull it up nice and tight, and stretch back into warrior three. Keeping nice and strong, shoulders lifted, ribs lifted, belly lifted. And pull your knee back in again, reaching up. And slowly lower down, release. Take a little break. Just kind of, loosen things up so that we don't get too rigid, too stiff. Lift and spread all your toes. Lower them down again, keeping the spread. Bend your left knee, pulling your left knee up, reaching up. And bend your elbows, cross your left ankle above your right knee. Inhale, reach up again, pull your knee up, externally rotate the hip. Step your leg back behind you, coming into warrior two. Reach back. Reverse your warrior. Come forward again, maybe heel toe that back foot in a little bit. Sweep the back leg up. And stretch back. Into warrior three. Pull your knee back up. And lower down and release. Take a little break here. And let's come into a squat. So lower your hips all the way down. Slowly lower your hips to the floor and come onto your backs. We'll do a little warm down, a little stretching of those glutes that we were just working a lot. So place your feet down, lift and shift your hips over to the right. Straighten your left leg, reach the right leg up. Take your left hand to the outside of your right foot and slowly, with control, bring your foot all the way across your body. You can always place a prop underneath your leg here if your leg won't go all the way down. So let your leg rest on the floor or your prop. Turn your head to the right. Relax. Notice how your body feels, your whole body. Notice that right shoulder. Is it kind of hovering off the floor? Or is it resting easily? And just think of sending your intention, feeling of relaxation into that right shoulder. Notice if there is any little shift, just from your intention and your focus. Now take your right hand and bring it right to the crease of your hip. And using the heel of your hand, it's like pressing your femur away from your hip, creating a little space there. We'll just hold that for a couple of breaths. And release. Open your arm back out to the side. And again, notice if there is a little shift just from taking a moment to create a little extra space in that hip joint. We'll just stay here for another breath or two. It really is important to give your body time to relax into a pose. Especially a pose that initially might feel a little tight, a little bit unyielding. And instead of beating yourself up or trying to force something, see if you can relax your way into it. Notice how that feels. And now pull your right hip back to the earth to float your right leg up. Release your hand, shift your hips over to the left, straighten your right leg, bring your left leg up, and take your right hand to the outside of your left leg, bring your leg across. You can always use a prop underneath your leg, but let your foot rest on something. Again, notice the opposite shoulder, if it's on the floor or hovering. And you can just kind of move your shoulder around a little bit to make sure that it feels comfortable. Relax and notice if there's any shift, any changes. Now take your left hand and reach it in that hip crease. Use the heel of your left hand to kind of stretch your your thigh away from your hip, creating a little space. And notice what other parts of your body may feel a stretch. Like I feel a stretch in my low back doing this. So just notice what it feels like for you. We'll just hold this for another breath or two. And release, open your arm back out to the side. And for me, now my left shoulder is resting a lot more easily on the ground. We'll just stay here for a few more breaths. Now think of pulling this left hip back to the ground to float your leg up. Center your hips. Straighten the right leg, float the left leg down. Nice and slow. And let everything rest. And one more time, we'll do a little hip massage. So bring your knees up over your hips and big circles. You can pull your knees in, over to the side, stretch them away. Just whatever you want to do to get into those glutes, give them a little massage. Reverse the direction of your circles. Nice and easy. And hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little squeeze. And stretch your legs out for Savasana. Oh, it's going to feel good. Take a couple of intentional, mindful breaths in and out through your nose. Let your whole back rest on the ground and let your glutes completely relax. Notice if there's any space underneath your ribs. You really don't want space underneath the ribs. A little bit of space underneath the low back, that's cool, but you want the ribs to lie flat on the floor if you can. You could even take your hands and lightly brush your ribs, almost like you're smoothing them out. So they're not popping up, but they're just kind of melting into the rest of your torso. And relax your hands out to the side. Let your feet flop open. And let yourself surrender and relax. So I'm going to stay here with you for about a minute or a little longer. You are most welcome to stay longer on your own. And just enjoy this feeling of peace. Kind of like the calm after the storm. Begin to bring some gentle movement into your fingers and toes. Taking your time, moving slowly. Whenever you're ready, bend your knees and gently roll to your side and pause. Taking this time to reflect, notice the transformation, the changes that have occurred. Notice how you're feeling. When you're ready, keeping your eyes closed, gently roll and press your way up to a comfortable seat. And notice how you feel again. Notice if sitting now feels different than when we started. Notice how you have the power to transform your body, to create health, to create a feeling of longevity, of fullness, of true enjoyment, just being human on this earth and being alive. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to practice together, and I hope you're feeling great. Hope you're really appreciating your super glutes. And please leave a comment below. Let me know how you felt. And I look forward to seeing you again on the mat. Let me know if you have any requests or suggestions. And thank you again so much. Bye for now.